Now, okay. Now let's get back to some WoW. I've been like creating to mm, react to some WoW to actually just like watch WoW YouTube videos. Mm, so yeah, let's check out from our good boy Matt Season. So secrets and secrets and summon bosses within WoW. This is really cool. There are many secret bosses in WoW. So let's check it out.
Hey guys, what's up? Mad Season here, back with another video for you.
I just want to check one thing. Okay.
Throughout World of Warcraft's history, there's been a bunch of secret or optional bosses in the many dungeons and even raids, so in this video, I thought I'd show you them and the rewards they give if it's something cool such as a mount or a toy. Everyone's definition and standards of the word secret will vary, so I'll start with what I think to be the most secret, and then I'll work my way down, getting more lax the further we get into the list. A lot of these, particularly the ones that you summon, have been simplified over the years, and they no longer require the quest chains or reagents, but for the sake of keeping things as interesting as possible, I'll go over everything in their original state. So, first up, we have the High Inquisitor Fairbanks in the Scarlet Monastery dungeon. This one is a classic right here. He's no longer a boss in the game, but before the revamp of the dungeon, if you went to the cathedral side and facing the final boss, you instead took a right into this little side room. If you look carefully, there's a secret here. If you click on this torch, a secret room will open up, revealing an undead NPC named Inquisitor Fairbanks, who is an optional boss. Kind of ironic since the Scarlet Crusade has this whole cleanse the world of undead thing going on. You normally just killed him for loot, but he also had some special dialogue regarding the corrupted Ashbringer, which was believed to have been planned to be put into the World of Warcraft way back when, but it was ultimately scrapped. He was the advisor of Alexandros Mograine, and witnessed him being murdered by Renault Mograine, who was his son and final boss of the original Stratholme Cathedral side. He spread word of Renault's betrayal, and those who listened to him would form the Argent Dawn faction, but ultimately, he was murdered by the Scarlet Crusade on the grounds of blasphemy, and his corpse was dragged into this chamber where he lay ever since. Ironic. He could save others from death, but not himself. Still though, a cool secret boss with that classic torch revealing the secret room shtick. Next, switching.
Yeah, I remember this one. This one was it was such an it wasn't a secret at all, to be honest. But like after all the time that passes, yeah, I guess it is like within the rules of what's secret and then what's not. It is a secret, yeah.
To the current game for a second, we have Kasumath the Hungering in Legion. On the surface, this guy isn't too hidden because you can just find him in the uninstanced Eye of Ashara in the Broken Isles, but the story behind him reveals one of the biggest secrets in the game actually. This guy wasn't in the game at the expansion's launch. Rather, he had to be summoned through a very hidden and specific set of steps that only the most clever and adventurous of players first found. To meticulously go through each and every step would be a disservice to the whole mystery, and if you want a full guide, there's plenty on YouTube, but it involved talking to NPCs, finding a special hidden item on the ground in some random cave in the middle of nowhere, and from there, clicking 10 orbs spread throughout the Broken Isles in order, with the orbs themselves being super hidden away in secret caves. Some were hidden behind brush, others hidden in underwater caves, and when the first person to figure out this puzzle clicked all 10 in order, the entire server got a special emote pop up on the screen that an ancient evil has been unleashed, spawning Kasumath in the process. From here, anyone who clicked the orbs unlocked a world quest.
That's actually really cool that like everyone on a server get a fucking emote because someone fucking achieved something. This is really fucking cool. This is the WoW like.
To kill him, which either gives you a pet or a squid mount chosen at random and switching every 2 weeks. So get out there and take part in one of the coolest secrets in the game and get yourself some collectibles in the process. I'll have a link to a guide in the description if you end up needing it. Okay, so that was pretty involved, so let's slow it down a bit. The Black Fathom Deeps dungeon is quite the labyrinth with many side rooms. One that slips past a lot of people though is an underwater area below the path leading to the final 2 bosses. If you instead swim below the path, you'll uncover a secret underwater cavern which holds another boss called the Guardian of the Deep. This used to be a Threshodon named Old Syracuse prior to the Warlords of Draenor patch. I'm not sure why.
Threshodons, when I was a kid, used to fucking scare me the fuck out. These things, there was also like a shark or Threshodon in the Metro between Ironforge and Stormwind. You know the only one that you can target when you're watching the aquarium, right? It used to fucking scare me the fuck out just because of how just like mysterious it was. Oh, fuck.
Which holds a named Old Syracuse prior to of the Deep. This used to be a Threshodon named Old Syracuse prior to the Warlords of Draenor patch. I'm not sure why they changed it. Maybe they didn't like the model. Kasumoth wasn't the only secret added in Legion. Another secret boss can be found in the Gnomeregan dungeon. If you progress through it to the final boss room, you can find a very tiny button on the structure in the southwestern side of the room labeled Push Me. Doing so will spawn the Super Saiyan God form of Mech Ginir Thermoplug, the End Ginir Omega Plug. No wonder the gnomes couldn't take back their city. During this expansion, this guy is quite the challenge. He summons an army of bombs that one-shot you, fills the room with electricity, rockets, and he one-shots non-tanks. You typically need a full party of 5 to take him down, but if you're successful, you and your entire party will be awarded with the Vial of Green Goo, which turns you into a leopard gnome for 10 minutes and has a 10-minute cooldown. Another secret and summoned boss is the Postmaster Malone in Stratholme. Throughout the instance, you can find these interactable mailboxes where if you click on them, they spawn some hostile postmen who attack you for tampering with the mail. If you click on 3 of them, however, the Postmaster Malone boss will spawn, and he drops some special loot, including a set even.
Yeah, I remember we were doing that because basically it was a free boss, not too difficult, because like back in the day, Stratholme was like what not everyone like basically the routes of like Blackrock Deep and Stratholme and Scholomance were not actually finished routes. So basically, when it comes to BRD, Scholomance, and Stratholme, back in vanilla, people didn't finish the dungeons because they were so difficult. They actually used to fucking like stop at a certain point because past that the bosses were way too harsh or needed a special like you needed a special key that no one had, or like there was like some challenging ways, and basically like, or else like let's say for Rock Deeps, it will last for like fucking 5 hours to actually like go to the Emperor Torsen. So basically like back in the day, Stratholme, you will finish so the route will be you start at Stratholme, you go right, and actually you follow the route until you end up in the Scarlet Monastery type of like like defense camp, and you kill the boss here, and that's where the instance that's where the dungeon usually where people usually finish the dungeon. That was one of it. The other is I just remember that the last boss of the Baron that drops the mount. Uh, Not a lot of groups basically like finished it. People were happy just like not finishing it because too difficult, just too difficult. Same with Scholomance. Scholomance last boss dropped epic loot, but the problem was way too difficult. Like it was unbearably difficult to fucking get in here. And yeah, and same with Torsen. Torsen, the last boss of Black Rob Depths, drops like also an epic drop, but no one fucking did it because it took too much time. It's such a fucking good team, and it was so fucking difficult. So yeah, like back in the day, like these instances, even UBRS, I think that UBRS people usually finished it quite often, but again, it was quite a challenge. Like this is something that like changed past past vanilla, where like every dungeons people actually like fucking finish them. Like because in vanilla, so a lot of dungeons people simply like didn't bother because it was way too difficult, even for like experienced adventurers. But that was an interesting part where it was like there was like this hard mode that you could go further into the dungeon where no one will dare to venture, you know?
Mailboxes used to require keys, which you got from another NPC on the human side, but these are no longer required. He's probably one of the least killed bosses in the game, just due to people not knowing about him, but also because the mailboxes are spread out everywhere, so those who did know of him usually didn't go through the trouble anyways in going around the entire instance to spawn him, both then and now. But now you know. The next one that was a little hidden was the Infinite Corruptor in the Culling of Strathholm dungeon in the Wrath of the Lich King expansion. This is a special boss that despawns in 25 minutes after starting the combat portion of the dungeon. On the route to the final boss.
Oh yeah, this one drops like the bronze Drake, like the Drake that everyone had back in the day. That was like a good time. Like it wasn't too difficult, but it was challenging enough, I guess. But like at the end of the expansion, like everyone fucking had this fucking mount.
If you hang a left into this little back alley, you'll find the Infinite Corruptor torturing a Bronze Drake. And if you defeat him in time, you get the Bronze Drake mount as a reward. This was a fairly tough time trial back when the content was current, but today it's quite trivial. The next one, moving back to Legion, we have Nightbane in Karazhan. This boss was in the original level 70 Karazhan, and initially to summon him, you had to complete a lengthy quest chain, get some reagents, and an urn to summon him on the rampart side outside of the castle. You may have noticed that he's missing from the re-release in Legion. Well, as a normal boss at least.
Yeah, I remember finishing Karazhan and while going deep into Karazhan, never seeing this guy.
You can still summon him by following a cryptic set of steps, and you'll even get a mount called the Smoldering Emberworm for your troubles. Upon zoning into the mythic mode for the dungeon, you'll notice an emote that says, "The strange chill of a dark presence winds through the air." Throughout the dungeon, there are these crystals that you can click on, and upon seeing this message, you have 8 minutes to click on the first of 5 of these crystals, then the remaining 4, and then you talk to an NPC to summon the secret Nightbane boss. The first crystal is in the audience of the opera, and there's another right before the maiden fight, you don't need to kill her. One right after you kill Moros, one in the spider room, and one after you kill the curator boss. Each crystal adds time to your timer, And after clicking all 5, you have 5 minutes to get to Nightbane's ledge and talk to Medivh to summon and kill him. Doing this successfully requires a good understanding of the layout of the dungeon. I won't go into details just for the sake of saving time, but if you want to give it a shot, I'll have a link to a guide by a guy named One Legion TV in the description. It's actually really simple these days if you're in the right spec. Typically as a tank, you can even solo it, so you should be able to knock it out. A cool secret with a cool reward. Next, we have another summoned boss in the old Scholomance dungeon, and that's Cyrtonos the Herald.
Oh yeah, if I remember correctly, so in the fucking like zone of Scholomance, you could the undead, like you could find blood of fallen heroes or something, and basically this is like was the currency to summon it. You put it in the urn and basically you summon it, if I remember correctly. But this was in the both zones of the where the Scourge won.
Outside of the dungeon, you could find the ghost of Eva Sarkov, who was the
Or maybe I'm completely wrong about this
former
one.
head maid of the Vyrah family. She gave you a couple of quests. The first was to kill the butcher, Krastanov, located inside the dungeon, and to burn her remains, and the second was to kill another boss called Jandispirov. Returning to her, she gave you the third quest to kill the summoned boss, Cyrtonos the Herald. You're given a reagent called the Blood of the Innocents, and you had to go through this little balcony tucked away in the little side room near the beginning of the dungeon.
Yeah, it was Blood of the Innocent.
The next step was to burn the blood in the brazier, which summoned Cyrtonos in his gargoyle form, and from there you could take him out for some extra loot. It was actually a pretty tough fight as I remember. As a reward, you were given a special trinket that allowed you to see the undead residents of Caradero. You could also get a secret quest, and even buy some crafting recipes from the ghost blacksmith there. And if you wanted to kill Cyrtonos again, as long as you completed the quest, the Blood of the Innocents would then drop from a mob inside of the dungeon.
Oh yeah, no, I was wrong. It was like something else
In
then.
the Cataclysm expansion, the old Sunken Temple dungeon was neutered a bit. There were a bunch of floors completely cut out of the instance, and a fake wall was put up to block the old entrance to this area. In this no longer accessible dungeon were a few bosses, one of them being a hulking troll called Atal Alarian. He was a summoned boss that was locked behind a puzzle. Also throughout the area, you could find these snake statues. There were 6 in total, they were clickable, and normally they just gave you a debuff when clicked, but if you clicked all of them in a certain order, you could summon this boss in the middle arena of the dungeon. It was south, north, southwest, southeast, northwest, and northeast, and it was a neat little puzzle that led to an extra fight with some loot. But no longer in the game, unfortunately. Next, in the Sethic Halls instance, you'll find the Dreadraven, Anzu, guarding the room to the final boss. He drops a mount on heroic mode called the Raven Lord, which is
This is like the most kind of like Reigns of the Raven Lord is probably the most like known rare but not rare because everyone fucking got it mount ever. Like, let's be honest, who the fuck didn't saw this mount before without knowing where the fuck it comes from? Like, this is like the rarest mount, no, the most unrare mount out of every rare mount. Like, it is like strangely stupid how this mount is so fucking popular and always has been since people were able to actually get it. Like, it's unbelievable.
cool, so he's pretty important. But originally, this room just
But gotta admit, like, quite the fucking looks. Like, the mount is fucking beautiful.
Had the generic Arakoa patrolling around, and to summon Anzu, you had to be a druid. He was the finale of a lengthy quest chain involving a lot of globetrotting around the Outland, and at the end of it, you got a special item called a Moonstone that allowed you to summon Anzu. The fight itself was pretty unique, with bird spirits that would spawn that would give you bonuses if you healed them. And if you were successful, you got your swift flight form, and you got to keep the Moonstone to summon him as much as you want in case you wanted to farm that mount. Since the flight form is now just trainable though, Anzu is up by default for you to kill anytime on any class. Next up, we have a fishing boss. In the old Zul'Gurub raid, before the Cataclysm revamp, there was a sort of secret fishing boss that you could fight.
I remember this one. I don't remember the details, but I remember that like you could summon trouble, like you could fish some trouble if you wanted. I used to raid in Zul'Gurub back in vanilla, so.
On the northeastern bank of the river, you could find a wrecked campsite called Pagel's Point, and if you searched it thoroughly, you could find an old tackle box with an item inside called Nat Pagel's measuring tape. This started a quest that required you to go all the way to the Dustwallow Marsh Zone on the other continent and talk to the fisherman Nat Pagel. If you give him this tape, he'll sell you a special item called a Mud Skunk Lure, where if you use this along with 5 mud skunk fish in Zul'Gurub, you'll summon the mighty Hydra, Gazrenka. You fished up these mud skunks inside the actual raid in the waters, of course requiring a group to escort you there since it was teeming with enemies, and you returned to the wrecked campsite, used the lure with the 5 fish, and Gazrenka would spawn and attack you. And if you killed it, you got some extra fishing themed loot, including the fish terminator, a harpoon, and so on. Next, we may as well talk about another Hydra since we started anyways. This one is Gazrilla.
Oh yeah, this one was also a special one. Everyone did Zul'Farrak, everyone knew Zul'Farrak, and this boss, no one knew about this boss in Zul'Farrak.
And it can be found in the Zul'Farrak dungeon. Located on the western side of the map, you could find this little shrine with a clickable gong. Originally, this needed a special mallet, and your only clue was written on ancient tablets, which would drop from the trash mobs in the instance. Clicking on these, you were told to travel to an area called the Altar of Zul to obtain a sacred mallet from a troll there, and then to bring this mallet to the top of the troll city of Jawnhto Alor, and use it on an altar there to infuse it with power. These areas were located in the hinterland zone, quite a ways away. For the mallet, you had to kill a troll named Kiaga the Keeper, and then just like the tablet said, bring it to the top of Jawnhto Alor, and turn it into the Mallet of Zul'Farrak. This was quite the trek, as the city was ginormous and filled with elites. Usually, it required a group to complete. The mallet itself was actually a pretty good weapon, a blue one-hander mace with some strength and stamina, and now that you had it, you could bring it back to the gong in Zul'Farrak and summon the Gazrilla boss for some extra loot. The next one I'm pretty sure isn't super secret since it was just a normal raid boss.
Let me just check one thing, because I think like it used to drop, it used to drop epic. I just want to check if it's true. But I'm not sure. Like, no, I didn't drop anything. Okay. Just wanted to be sure.
But I still have to bring it up because this is some Scooby-Doo shenanigans right here. In this room in the old Karazhan raid from the Burning Crusade, there's a secret door that leads to a boss. Do you know where it is? Take a guess or two. Well, if you guessed behind this bookshelf, you're correct. Again, I'm sure a lot of people know about this, but I mean, come on, it's a secret bookshelf. How awesome is that? If you follow the path behind the shelf, it leads to the optional Terestian Ilhoof boss, and outside of his room, some demons would perpetually spawn, but if you kill them, they would be gone for good, so there was a benefit in killing them other than loot. Another summoned boss could be found in the lower Blackrock Spire instance. Near the beginning of this place, you can find some clickable pikes stacked against the wall, so you loot these and later on you run into a boss called Highland Omak, and if you kill him, he drops his head. And if you bring both his head and that pike to this little ritual site found near the end of the dungeon, you can use the head to mount it on the pike, and it'll start a little mini event where you're ambushed by some ogres, ending with the Uruk Doomhollow boss. And next, we have the Shade of Hakar in the Sunken Temple. Nowadays, this is just a normal boss, but prior to Cataclysm, you had to go through a little quest chain to be able to summon this guy. You talked to a troll witch doctor named Yakinya in the Tannerus Zone, and he sends you on a set of quests to supposedly harness the power of Hakar, who's a blood god worshipped by the Gurubashi trolls. He asks you to capture spirits of some wind serpents in the nearby Fearless Zone, and after doing so, he asked you to find 2 tablets in the Zul'Farrak instance, so the first 5-man quest in the chain. You follow his instructions, and these tablets speak of another reagent called the Ancient Egg, which you could find all the way at the top of that Jintha Allure city that I mentioned earlier in the Hinterland Zone. You returned this to Yakinya, and he sent you to the Sunken Temple dungeon, and if you used this egg, you would start a little gauntlet where you had to fend off waves of green dragonkin, and at the end of it, the Shade of Hakar would spawn, and you had to kill it to trap his essence within the egg. The quest chain went on a bit further, and you found out that Yakinya actually tricked you and used the egg to rebirth Hakar into Azeroth, and you'd later have to correct your mistake in the Zul'Gurub raid.
Oh, this is actually fucking
Let's do
cool.
a few more summoned bosses since we're going over them here anyways. Next, we have Ironaya in Uldaman. She was locked behind a chamber near the entrance of the dungeon, but there was seemingly no way to open it. In the original, you had to take a side path through a small cave to grab an item called the Nakiv Medallion, and there was also an item dropped from the Trog boss called the Staff of Soul, and you combined these to create the Staff of Prehistoria, which you then used in a pedestal near the door to open it. There are a couple of references going on here. The names of the staff and medallion spelled backwards is The Lost Vikings, which was an old platformer game made by Blizzard. The medallion itself
It was basically the first game ever made by the Blizzard Entertainment.
is guarded by 3 dwarves from the game, and the sequence that plays when you put in the staff
It was a side scroller, so a 2D kind of like
you may recognize from Indiana Jones. The staff shoots a beam of light to the door, and Ironaya comes out Kool-Aid Man style, ready to lay the beat down on you. Next, we have the Old Paladin and Warlock Mound quest bosses. Back in vanilla, these classes got their epic mounts through a lengthy and expensive quest chain. I won't go over them here fully since I have a whole video about these already, but basically, they required you to globetrot all across Azeroth, gather expensive reagents, and as a finale, you summoned a special boss that you had to kill to learn your mount. The Dreadsteed for the Warlock, and the Charger for the Paladin. The Paladin quest required you to get an exorcism sensor and a blessed barding, and you had to go into the basement of the Scholomance dungeon to summon the Death Knight, Dark Reaver.
So basically, like for these, I don't know for the quest of like warlocks, but first off, like these fucking like quests, like mounts back even back in the day compared to other mounts, like they looked dope as fuck. But what was really cool about like the Paladin quest is that like for this event in particular, you will go for to Skolomance. Actually, the best strat will be 5 Paladin with the quest, because you know, like back in vanilla, paladins had a lot of spells against the undead, and basically these spells were like really fucking useless most of the time. Most of the time, yeah. But basically during this quest and this one and only time, 5 paladins could fucking rush into Skolomance and fucking demolish someone that the good way, you know, like because basically like paladins had exorcism and scare the undead as well, but like basically for the quest you needed paladins anyway, and at least for me, I got lucky enough to win 5 paladins in, and it was such a fucking carnage. Like it was so fucking fun to be 5 DPS paladin, basically rotting into this fucking like undead zone and just demolishing everything with like exorcisms and fucking fearing everything. It was really a cool quest, and then the boss, like it was really a cool adventure. Like, well, it was the only time where like all the spells that we got like during like the leveling process of as paladins were actually useful. Never found another time where actually like all these spells were useful as a paladin, and then paladin like they removed them. But like this, what at least like for my own personal experience, it was legitimate enough, because like 5 paladins in fucking Skolomance just like fucking like lighting up the place, using tons of exorcisms, like that was fucking dope.
You had to use special spells called seals against his minions, and it was actually a pretty unique fight. And for the Warlock, you had to summon the demon, Lord Helnerath, in the Dharmal instance. You got a bunch of summoning reagents that spawned a bunch of demons for you to kill, and you and your party had to fend them off to summon Helnerath and beat the encounter. 2 really neat summoned bosses for 2 really neat epic quest chains. And since I mentioned those, I gotta mention the old tier 0.5 bosses. I covered this already as well, so I won't go over the whole chain again, but to sum it up really quickly, there's another dungeon set back in Classic called the Dungeon Set 2, or Tier 0.5.
Okay, so there was like the tier 0 set, that was basically a set that you get from dungeons, and basically like the tier 0.5 was like the epic version of the tier 0. But it was so complicated to fucking get that like no one see these armors, no one fucking ever got them. Like basically it was like a recolor skin, some of the which were really cool, but like it was really too complicated.
To get it, much like the mount chains, you had to undertake a huge quest chain that had you go all over the world, gather reagents, visit dungeons, complete challenges, and so on. Some of these challenges were to head to certain instances and summon bosses to kill. You had an enchanted banner that you used in the Blackrock Depths instance to summon a gladiator named Theldrin, the Soul Ashes of the Banished, which summoned an ogre named Cormac in the Skolomance dungeon, Druidical Remains, which summoned a Tauren named Morgreyhoof in the lower Blackrock Spire, and an item called the Starbreeze Village Relic for a night elf named Asalian in Diremal, a Sword of Zealotry to summon a pair of bosses in Stratholme named Jirian and Sothos, and lastly, an amulet that you reconstructed throughout the whole chain to summon a Draconid named Lord Velthalak in the upper Blackrock Spire. So, these were neat little extra encounters, and they dropped some unique loot. Some still sought after for transmogs to this day. Unfortunately, the questline is no longer available, but if you completed it back in the day and you kept some items, you can still summon a couple of them. It was one of the more epic quest chains from the past that led to some cool summon bosses, and my description really doesn't do it justice here. If you want to see it in detail, like I said, I did cover it. I'll have links in the description if it piqued your interest. Sorry about breezing through these last two, by the way, but this video is starting to get out of hand, and if I went into detail, it really would be an hour long. Plus, again, I did cover them already, so I figured that those who want to see the full scoop will check out the links in the description. Alright, I'm gonna sign off here, I guess. There's a bunch of secret or summoned bosses for you. All the ones I thought were worthy of mentioning anyways. I'm sure it's not perfect, but I think I hit the highlights pretty good. If you have any you think I missed, by all means let me know, and if there's enough for a part 2, I might come back to it. Anyways, I hope you found the video interesting or entertaining. Like it if you liked it, and I'll see you in the next one.
Someone to match season show if you didn't, if you love WoW. Like, this man is a legend. Alright.